So hey guys, well the reason why I just did that for you for this opening is because, well, as by the title of this video and by the title of this movie, it is called Big Eyes, and it is a Tim Burton film about the life of Margaret Keane, a famous painter who basically did not get credit for her work until later in her life. So Big Eyes, you guys, it is the new film by Tim Burton, and as you saw a second ago, that was kind of my attempt at making my own eyes big as I could as an appropriate fitting title for this movie review. And this film, like I said, it's a film biopic of Margaret Keane, and she's a famous painter who is well known for painting big eyes on children in her paintings. And one of her key inspirations was her own daughter in real life. Basically, she kind of kept this her painting style and her paintings underground from people for a while. And basically, it's just her daughter, and her dog that basically know about these paintings at all at first. And it's not until she attends an art fair and really starts showing off these paintings, and does kind of what do they call those? Those little caricatures where you sit down and then they paint the little um, character thing. For those who've attended art fairs, you know what I'm talking about. Um, yeah, the little caricatures, I think they're called. And she was doing those for people, and the style of these paintings and drawings she's done of these big-eyed children. And basically, this is the point in the story where Walter Keane, played by Christoph Waltz, from Django Unchained and a couple of other big films, um, he's basically very impressed by her big eye paintings and drawings, and they become boyfriend and girlfriend at first, and it eventually turns into a marriage right away. But what happens is, and like I said, I'll try to keep this as spoiler free as I can, but this part of the story really isn't spoiler filled because it basically is the plot of the film. And basically, the main thing that happened in this woman's life at one point that was very big in her life. Um, so basically, she's getting more credit for her own paintings than her husband Walter Keane is for his. And Walter Keane's paintings, they're very basic landscape stuff, stuff that several other artists across the world would probably do already. And so basically, his own style and his own paintings really aren't original or fresh as Margaret's are. And because they have the same last name since they eventually do get married, Walter Keane decides to take advantage of this and claim her work is his work. And because he participated in one of the wars, I'm not sure which specific war he was a part of, whether it was World War II or things of that nature. He claims that, coming home to see children was a very, blessed time and a very sad time in his life. And so he pretended that that was his inspiration for all this work, when behind the scenes, it was really Margaret Keane making all these paintings, for him and his fame, when he was taking all her credit. And that's basically what Big Eyes plays off of. It plays off, what is right, what is wrong. It really very much displays how personal art can be to people, and how certain people paint certain things and others do not. And, when people steal your idea, just how much it hurts you, and how much, that person's taking credit and getting fame and getting money for your work, and you're not getting anything back. You're just doing the work for them. And that's basically a huge thing that Big Eyes plays off of. So I love this film, you guys. Another thing to note too, this is actually directed by Tim Burton, and this is a film that Tim Burton wouldn't normally direct. And I think that's kind of a neat project for him to take on. Because I'll tell you one thing, I really like Tim Burton a lot. I think he's a great director. My biggest problem with him, though, it wasn't so much with this film, it was films that came earlier before this one. I would say Corpse Bride on out was when this problem started. Burton was very comfortable with where he was. I thought he was kind of in this phase where if it didn't have Johnny Depp or Helena Bonham Carter, and if it couldn't be set in like this overly gothic world with tons of CGI and tons of green screen, he wouldn't take on the project. Like Alice in Wonderland was one, Dark Shadows was one. Like I said, so basically any film I would say after Corpse Bride, and obviously until this one, Big Eyes kind of brought him back for me at least. I thought he was kind of in the slump where he was making the same film over and over again, always working with the same people, taking on subject matters that were almost too similar for their own good. And so, a while ago I said, if Tim Burton kind of drops the whole Gothic thing for a while and lets Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter work on other projects outside of his own for a while and just kind of makes his own original story that drops the whole Gothic thing, I think he can come back. And well, Tim Burton luckily did that for Big Eyes, and it was a huge, great surprise and a great film as a result of Tim Burton getting out of his comfort zone in order to make this. So for my positives and negatives of Big Eyes, I'll once again state, for my big positive, Tim Burton got out of his comfort zone, and that really shows, the diversity of his directing style. I love how Burton finally got out of this zone of, really repetitive gothic garbage and did something that was pretty fresh and pretty different than what we're seeing him direct. And once again, I just love how Burton got out of his comfort zone to do that. I also love how Tim Burton himself has quoted that Margaret Keane's work was very much a big inspiration, out of many inspirations to kind of how he became a director and how he started to sketch stuff and how he started to become an artist himself and a visual storyteller. So I really liked how he took on not only a big film biopic about an important person, but an important person that's kind of relevant to his own life. So I really like how Burton did that. And then my next big positive, and this won't come off to a surprise as any because these are two very talented people. Amy Adams and Christoph Waltz give Oscar-worthy performances here. I loved their performances. Amy Adams transformed into this character as Margaret Keane. Christoph Waltz transformed into his character as Walter Keane, and it really buys and it really sells here. It was one of those things where I almost forgot that I was watching two actors, an actor and an actress, and I felt like I was really watching these two characters come alive on the big screen. That's really saying something about their performances and about Tim Burton once again as a director. The film also has some very convincing 1950s and 1960s sets. Once again, I felt like I was in this world, that I was in this time period, that I wasn't watching a film, I was actually watching this story play out. And once again, then so much props to the people involved. This was just a huge accomplishment, I thought. It really looked like the 1950s and 60s to me. And kind of like I was talking about earlier, this film has a lot to say about how art is personal to people. How if somebody steals your work, it really hurts you. You're not getting the credit for something you made. And how, Margaret Keane had a personal connection to Children with Big Eyes and kind of how that connected to her own life and her looking at her dog and her looking at her daughter and her looking at other people's children and, seeing that eyes kind of lead into a person's soul and that they're a very important part of a person's body in a way. And so, that has a very big personal thing. And this film definitely plays off the whole theme that, art is personal to people, specifically to the artists who make the art. So I just really love how Tim Burton played off that theme really well. Also, I like how, Tim Burton, you can definitely tell he's behind the camera, but not to the point to what we saw him earlier in his earlier work. I liked how there was small little bits of his style, like, posters and flyers, promoting like exhibits of Keane's work. And to me, the flyers in this film, and anytime you see like typography or text, like outside of a bar, outside of a place that, the scene's about to take place in, I can definitely see Burton's presence there. It very much had a Tim Burton typography or a Tim Burton flyer look. If he was asked to make a flyer for a Margaret Keane event, it definitely had that kind of look to it. It was dark and black and white and, had the typography of a Tim Burton film. And even the Margaret Keane picture kind of looked like something out of a Tim Burton film. So like I said, I like how there were small bits of, Burton reminding us that he's behind the camera, but it wasn't so distracting to the point where I felt like he was just repeating an earlier film that he already made. And then for my two only complaints of the film, because I really don't have a lot for this movie, for my negatives, I thought the courtroom scene near the end of the film, and I won't really talk about what it is because that might be a few spoilers if I go that route. The overall courtroom scene I thought was very weak. It felt very unrealistic to me. That was probably the one and only time in the film where I kind of stepped out a little bit and be like, you know what, this is kind of, I don't really buy into this as much. I know it happened. I know, the real event played out like this in a way. But to me, the way it was kind of a few things. I think the way it was executed, the way it was made, and just the way it flowed just didn't seem very good to me. So just a great film that kind of didn't wrap itself up the way that it should have, I guess, in a way. And I thought the overall ending of the film was just kind of quick and random, and just like, oh, well, like, by the way, here's the ending. It's just, it felt like that to me. It felt like, the ending that a great film like Big Eyes should have had. It felt like an ending of something that wasn't as good. So I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of the ending of this film. And then for me, there was some ineffective drawing poetic shorthand. And what I mean by that is there's scenes where Margaret Keane is like drawing somebody, that wants to get their picture taken or picture drawn in her style or painted in her style. And how they film it, I don't know if this is the editor's fault or Tim Burton's fault for this, but every once in a while she'll be drawing or painting. And keep in mind, some of her stuff took hours, weeks, and sometimes even months to get made. And so what they did for some of these scenes is, she would draw them or paint them, and it almost felt like it took her 5 seconds to do them. And it's just like in real life, once again, it wouldn't play out like that. So it kind of, once again, those small little moments took me out of the film just briefly, just briefly. And I think if Burton kind of added a sense of, time passing, or just a realistic sense, okay, well, this maybe took her an hour to do, or half an hour to do, or a week or a month to do, then I think it could have been grounded in reality the way it should have for those scenes, or those small little bits, I should say. So overall, guys, I'm going to give Big Eyes a 9 out of 10. I really do think it's a terrific film. It might even appear in my top 10 best of the year at the moment, but let's see when we actually get to my top 10 list, when that finally gets made. If the film does eventually reach that. But overall, if you love Tim Burton, you got to see this film. I think it's a nice step out of his comfort zone for him. And if you like the story of Margaret Keane, if you love her artwork, and like I said, if you really wanted to see him take on something different like I have for years, Big Eyes is definitely a film to check out. So 9 out of 10 for me. Be sure to check it out. And for the Tim Burton fans, you got to see it. Like I said, it was a nice step out of his comfort zone for Tim Burton.